I will share my findings when it comes to using bait casting versus spinning reels when lure fishing. Since you landed on this video to find the answer which one is the best, I will do my best to give you an idea by the end of this video. A few more things before going any further. 1. Everything I will say in next few minutes is based on experience or my experience in the field, so everything is practical. 2. There is no one and simple and quick answer which one is the best. It's complicated, but as I said, I will try to give you the best answer I can. 3. With experience, similar results can be achieved by either of those reels. But in certain situations, one or the other will be much easier to achieve those results with. 4. I personally use both types of reels in my own fishing, again depending on the situation. Okay, I did the intro and now let's dig into the important stuff. Actually, I have 10 topics I want to talk about, and in my opinion, those 10 topics will give you an idea which one is better in what situation. So I chosen those topics to talk about in a way that those topics would kind of reflect the differences between those two reel types. Okay, topic number 1, ease of use or ease of casting. I will grab a couple of rods here to show you what I mean. One is obviously a Baitcaster and another one is spinning. So you see, with a spinning set, anyone can cast as long as they have some ability in the hand. So all they need to do is just flick the bail arm and perform a swing and the lure will go out. I'm not saying that those people will be able to become top casters, but they will be able to cast out and hopefully catch some fish. And the same does not apply to baitcasters at all. You see, when casting a baitcaster, you need to feel where the lure is, how the rod is loaded, and when to release the line, and so on. And also, all those factors will be different from one reel to another reel because there will be differences in the braking and so on. But again, once you learn how to cast one reel, one baitcaster reel, you should be fine casting another one after adjusting brakes and release point and so on. But to cast with a baitcaster is much more difficult, especially if you are new to it. So bottom line here is, if you are starting out fishing in general, get yourself a spinning reel. You will be better off and you won't waste time by learning how to cast a baitcaster. On the other hand, if you fished all your life with a spinning reel, but you are curious, have time and patience, and you just want to learn new things, then try out Baitcaster. It has plenty of advantages I will talk about in a minute. 2. Fishing fun or enjoying myself whilst fishing. You see, once I cracked the casting on the Baitcaster, I can't explain why, but it's much more fun to use a Baitcaster, to cast, to retrieve, to land fish, and everything seems to be kind of more pleasant. Again, it might be kind of subjective or it might apply only to me, but I heard from other anglers that once they started using baitcasters, they do not want to go back to using spinning reels, and exactly the same with me. So I grab spinning sets only in those situations when I have to, even though I don't want to, but I know that spinning set will perform better in those situations. So yeah, bottom line here, baitcasters are more fun. 3. Heavy lures versus super light lures. Again, I have a couple of different sets here to show you what I mean. First of all, I have my super ultralight rod here, which is capable to cast out lures just like this one, which weighs like 0.4 grams or something like that, and I could go lower and still I would be able to cast like 20 meters with this set, no problem. And for that I would use tiny spinning reel, because as of 2022 there is no bait casting reel technologies in place which would allow me to cast such a light weights and so far as well. On the other hand, when I'm using very big lures, that is, let's say 40 grams and up to a couple hundred grams and up, I would always opt for Baitcaster, because Baitcasters have quite a simple design and they are very powerful reels. Therefore, they can be quite small, but still they can wind in or crank in very big and heavy baits, and those reels will not give up, even though they will be loaded very well every time the lure is cast out and retrieved. So yeah, for super small lures, like under a gram, spinning reels, for heavy stuff or big lures, always bait casting reels. And this applies or should apply to everyone in my opinion. Reel smoothness. You see, I have noticed that most bait casters are much smoother than spinning reels of the same price. If I want to achieve the same smoothness of the spinning reel, I have to spend like 2 or 3 times more. For example, here I have Tsurinoya Dark Wolf Ultra, and it's just super smooth reel and power transmission is awesome. And to achieve similar feeling, I would have to take something like Daiwa Ballistic, which is about 3 times more expensive than this budget Tsurinoya. If I would take something like Daiwa Fuego, it would not be as smooth, and this Tsurinoya would be much smoother compared to the Daiwa Fuego. So yeah, this probably will be to do with the fact that Baitcasters has much more simple or simpler design compared to the spinning reels. 5. Ease of transportation. You see, when I compare two sets, or the rods are of the same class, they are ultralight rods, but as you can see, the spinning version is just very clunky, because kinda the reel is bigger, it has handle, and the reel is further away from the blank as well, and the same applies to the guides. As you can see, the spinning version has bigger first couple of guides, and again, I could screw out the handle to make the spinning reel more compact when it comes to transportation. But again, the reel would stick out away from the blank. And with a Baitcaster, guides are close to the blank, even the ones which are the first from the reel. And the reel itself, when you align the handle like that, everything just lays flat, you know, like in your car's boot or whatever. Very compact. Not a big thing, but for me it's important, especially when I have quite a few rods all the time ready in my car. 6. Speed of fishing. I have noticed when using a Baitcaster, it allows me to save a little bit of time during every cast and retrieve. You see, when I cast out, I can release the spool with one hand. I don't have to, for example, you see, when I want to cast, and I can cast with a spinning reel, when I want to cast, I have to use another hand to flick the bail arm and then cast. So one extra movement is required by me when performing every single cast, and if you perform like 1,000 casts per day, you will save quite a few minutes every day. So that's a big thing for me. So bottom line here, baitcasters are much quicker or speedier when fishing than spinning reels. 7. Again, it's not a big deal, but what I noticed that when I'm fishing, especially when I need to release some line with one hand, for example, I play a big fish, I land it and it's in the net, but I don't have much line between the fish and the rod tip, and if the fish would start flicking around, it might break my rod. And when I need to give some line to the fish so I could put my kind of rod away, unhook the fish and so on, I can release the spool with one hand whilst holding the fish and give some line to the fish just by using one hand. Again, I can't really achieve the same with a spinning reel. There is like kind of possibility to do that depending on where the bail arm will be, but it's not easy. So, and with a baitcaster it's very easy and efficient, so I love that. 8. This one is very important to me. You see, I'm able to operate a baitcaster with one hand, so I can flick the spool releaser and perform a cast, and then I can use my fingers to flick it back, and then I can actually retrieve the lure, place the lure just with one hand. And that's very important to me, especially when kayak fishing, because often when I kayak fish I do not have like perfect angle where I want to cast and retrieve, so often I would, have my hand somewhere like almost behind me and still I can cast there and retrieve, so that's very important. And for example, when it's cold, I can kind of have one of my hands in the pocket and just use one hand. Again, one hand will be cold, but it's better to have one hand cold than both, So yeah, one hand operation on a baitcasters is possible and quite easy. With spinning reels, yes, it is possible, but then it's not really, it's not really easy, and it was not designed for that. So I would say one hand operation on a spinning reel, you shouldn't do it, and I definitely personally don't do it. 9. Small lure, distance casting. And for these situations I personally always choose spinning reel. You see, when you will be casting small lures and far away, it means that you will have to use BFS setup and likely fine line to cut through the wind. And then when you will be applying lots of pressure with fine line and small lure, there will be a lot of energy in the lure, and if something will go wrong, I mean overrun or something, bird's nest in general around the reel, you will lose the lure because you will break the line and it will be sent flying, into the sky. And quite often, especially when I distance casting, there is something on the other side like a boat or something, and if I would, lose a lure and it would be sent into the windows of the boat or a ship or whatever at speed, I would end up, in a bad situation. Therefore, for distance casting of a small lures, I would always choose spinning reel, because then it casts easier and I don't have to apply so much, of a power. And if the cast would be short or too long, obviously if it's too long I will have to stop it, but if it's too short, that's fine. Next time I will know to apply more pressure, but again, very unlikely that something will happen around the reel and I will break fine line and will send my, lure free into the sky and possibly, injuring someone or breaking windows and so on. So yeah, this is a situation where I still prefer spinning reels over baitcasters. 10, and it's the last one, I promise, and it's about feathering the lure during the cast. And baitcasters are much better at that. You see, when you cast out, the spool spins and feathers the lure by default. You see, when the lure will hit the water whilst lure is being cast using baitcaster, it will land very gently and it will be feathered by the reel itself, and you can feather it further just very simply by applying some pressure on the spool. Again, you can achieve very similar result with a spinning reel just by kinda during the cast just putting one of your fingers around here or even grabbing the line a little bit up. But again, with a baitcaster, it's just much easier, and the reel feathers the cast every single time without much of an effort. And even so, you can achieve very similar feathering with a spinning reel. It won't be consistent and just it won't be as good. Also, on the same note, to perform low trajectory casts on a baitcaster, it's much easier because of the same reason, because the spool stops down, or the braking system and spool stops down the lure, and the line is flat during the cast, or can be flat during the cast. And to achieve similar result, I mean flat casting, especially short casting with a spinning reel, it's very difficult. I would say quite often not even possible when you have some, like, let's say trout fishing, and you have some branches low to the water, to perform nice and gentle cast and then feather on time with a spinning reel. You have to be like just on the wall over level when it comes to casting. And with a baitcaster, actually it's quite easy once you work it out, and you don't need, you know, many casts to achieve that. To achieve similar result with a spinning reel, you would have to spend days and days, and you know, it would be like very jerky and not smooth. You know, you would be kind of doing that and casting out, and then always doing something, you know, around the spool just to make sure that, you know, it's feathered right. And with a baitcaster, you can achieve that actually with one hand. You can cast out and then feather with your thumb, you know. Much easier for short casts and low casts, and for those casts where you need that the lure would land, you know, as quietly on the surface of the water as possible. Let's say trout fishing, chub fishing in shallow water, and so on. So in all those situations, baitcaster will be just miles better and easier to use. Whew, that was a mouthful. Yeah, but I'm done. I hope you'll find this video useful. If you will, please consider subscribing to my channel and leaving thumbs up. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.